All right, what's up, class? Mr. Solano, we're gonna do exponents again, and I'm not here today, but I'll be there on Monday. So we got an exponent here. Today we're gonna learn zero exponent, and that's when you have a base, like a number here. We'll say 4, and then the exponent is 0. This is what's called zero exponent. When the little number is 0. All right, let me erase that one. Now, when you see that, the answer is always going to be 1. So for this one, 4 to the 0 power is 1. Okay. And that's when the base is a number and the exponent is 0. So if you look at these are all 1s. Okay. And what you got to look at here is this little 0. So these are all 1s. And this also holds true for variables. So any letter, the answer is still 1 because you have a 0 exponent. All right, so get an answer here for k to the 0. And then we'll move on to the next one. Now the next one's tricky because you have an a here, right? But the a doesn't have a 0. So you see this a? It doesn't have anything here. So we have to assume it's the exponent of 1. So that leaves it a. But if you look at the p here, the p has a 0 exponent. So that's going to be 1. So it's going to be a times 1. And that equals a. And sometimes, if you see something like this, you can just cross it out because it's the same thing. Going to be a. All right, let's do this last problem here. So you got 3. Now 3 doesn't have an exponent, so we'll bring it here. But 9 has a 0 exponent right there. So that equals 1. And then 3 times 1 is 3. All right, so make sure you finish this one, and we'll move on. All right, we're going to do now what's called negative exponents. So for example, a negative exponent will have a base, like could be an 8. But you got to pay attention because the exponent's going to be a negative. It could also look like this, a negative 8 and negative exponent could be 4. Okay, so you see that part? All right, erase this one. All right. So for this one, what you're going to look at here is this negative exponent right there. So this one is 7 to the negative 1 exponent. And when you do that, you're going to have to draw a line here. And it becomes a fraction. So the 7 goes to the bottom right there. Now the exponent turns into a positive. And you have to remember this because there's kind of no way to remember it. And then what we put on the top is always the imaginary 1. Okay? So if there's no numerator, then you're just going to put a 1. All right, let's do this one. This one too has a negative exponent. So we're going to draw a line. Always draw the line. 14 on the bottom and 2 here. And 1. All right, what I want you to do is this one and this one. Okay, use these two examples here because these are the same problems pretty much. Use those two examples and then we'll move on to the letter. So pause the video and try do those two problems. All right, we're going to do this one. Check that it's a negative exponent. But once you see that negative exponent, you're going to draw a line. Because usually what happens is that it becomes a denominator on the bottom. So this one is k, right? Change the exponent to a positive. So it changes to a positive, and then we put the 1. All right, so try this one by yourself. And then we'll do the last two. These last two are tricky because one of them have a positive exponent and one of them has a negative exponent. So what you're going to do here is identify that this is the negative exponent. Same principles apply. If you see that negative, you can draw a line. The e will go to the bottom, okay, because it's a negative. But then now, what do we do with the d to the third power? We just leave it on the top. Okay, so this doesn't go to the bottom. This stays on the top. Now what I want you to do is try this one on your own. Remember now, here's your hints. This is a negative, and you draw the line. And what you're going to do now is finish this up. All right, that's it for 0 and negative exponents. I'll see you guys on Monday.